Okay.
Yeah. And I did the same. So
Thank
you're
you.
great. And if I, just for housekeeping, if anyone be renamed, or if I rename someone incorrectly, just for the chair's clarification, just let me know.
How about if we rename Carol to Peter Eversole? Much as I like your wife.
Happy to do it. Happy to do it.
You can do
Let's
that?
see.
She's amazing.
Let's
You need a day job?
and I'm sorry, in lieu of Carol, that is Peter?
Yes.
Yes.
Ideal, great. There we go.
Wow.
Madam Chair, anyone else that you would prefer?
Well, I think James, everybody knows him, but perhaps there are people who don't know James Laporta. That's his last name.
Sure, sure. There we go. And
I presume it's Marina Cotton's on.
Marina, if you wish to disclose your identity, we can rechange your
Hi,
name.
it is Marina from.
Yeah, great.
Thanks, Janelle.
Hopefully I'll get the spelling correct.
Oh, we'll see.
No, not correct. Marina, let me know. K-H-O-U-B.
Oh my gosh, that was worse than I thought it was going to be, Janelle. Okay. K-O-T-C-H-O-U-B-E-Y.
Sorry, K-O.
T-C-H-O-U-B-E-Y.
O-U-B-E-Y, great. There you are.
No problem, thank you.
Yeah, no, great. All right. And Madam Chair, let me know if you see anyone else that you want a full name or.
No,
Okay.
we're good. Well, Ginny Potter, I think the applicant does
Sure.
need her full name.
Happily, yeah.
We'll just refer to Gordon as that Ridgeway.
Do you want me to be Virginia?
Oh, no. Well, we all know you as Ginny.
I know, but I mean, this is very official stuff
This is
here.
it's your choice.
I don't, as long as you feel positive about me, that's all right.
I certainly do. Okay, well, I guess I had desired to start promptly at 7:03. I'm going to wait till 7:05, just so you know.
Good, because
It's 7:04.
my computer says 7.
Okay, well, let me.
Oh, 4.
7:04.
7:04?
Does 6722622 wish to identify themselves? Apparently not. All right. I am going to call this meeting to order. The members of the Planning and Zoning Commission who are present are myself, Anna Tamel, Philip West, James Laporta, Keith Bodwell, and we have a new alternate, Christine Gray, and Steve Siccardi. Before we open the public hearing for the applicant, I do want to make some comments about ground rules for public hearings, because there may be people here who are in this format. We are holding this public hearing by Zoom because Governor Lamont issued an executive order 7B suspending in-persons until February 9th, 2021. Public hearings are meant to be an opportunity for applicants or public to be heard about a particular application. Public comments may be made during the public commentary portion of the hearing. In the application, the job of the planning and zoning hearing is to decide if all the requirements of our zoning regulations have been met, irregardless if a particular application is popular or unpopular. The comments made by the public and the commission are considered evidence and are recorded and become part of an official document. What we'll be doing for people who want to comment is asking you to submit your name by chat to Janelle, and she will list and we'll take you in the order in which you come. For people who are on the telephone, there's only one. We'll have a pause for you to identify yourself if you want to comment and get on the list. When it comes to make a comment, please state your name and any affiliate clearly for the record, and try to be brief and concise because everybody deserves a turn. And if someone hogs all the time, it's not fair. Once everybody's had a turn, people can have a second turn. And during the meeting, we're going to Zoom it. We're going to mute everyone just to keep feedback and microphone noise out of the discussion. So the other last plea for everyone to keep their comments courteous and polite and not to interrupt. We're all Cornwall citizens, we're all neighbors. The least we can do is show each other respect. Once the hearing is closed, no further evidence may be received. So that's said, now going to open this public hearing. It's a subdivision application. Potter subdivision of land to include 2 parcel lots. Virginia Potter owner, Cornwall Housing Corporation, applicant 337 Towns. The hearing is coming to order at 7:08 p.m. This is now the official trend starting. I am Anna Timmel, Chairman of the Planning and Zoning Commission and Chairman for the hearing. In compliance with state law, a transcript must be made of everything said at a hearing of a Planning and Zoning Commission. We are doing this by means of a recording, both audio and visual, on our Zoom meeting platform. I just stated that for the record that the hearing is opening on November 10th at 7:09 p.m. It's a regular scheduled meeting as was posted in Town Hall. The members of the Planning and Zoning Commission who are present tonight and seated for the hearing are Anna Timmel, Philip West, Steve Sicardi, James Laporta, and Keith Bodwell. During the hearing now, the next part of the process is that our staff is going, the zoning enforcement officer, Karen Nelson, is going to read some of the statutory requirements into the record. Following this, the applicant will take the floor, and then commissioners will be given to ask questions. After that's all over, then it's the public commentary period. So I'm going to turn it over now to Karen.
Thank you, Anna. Can you all hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I am going to start by reading the legal notice that was posted on the website as opposed to in newspapers according to what we have in place because of COVID-19. The legal notice reads, legal notice, Town of Cornwall, notice of public hearings, Planning and Zoning Commission. November 10th, 2020, regularly scheduled Zoom meeting the Cornwall Planning and Zoning Commission will hold public hearings commencing at 7 p.m. to hear the applications. Potter Woods subdivision of land to include 2 parcel lots. Virginia Potter owner, Cornwall Housing Corporation applicant, 337 Town Street. There are two other public hearings that will follow this. The first one being amendments to the regulations brought forth by the Planning and Zoning Commission relating to attainable housing cut, which would be a new section, Article 5, Section 14, home businesses to replace Section 816, 8-21, which is to be removed from special permit requirements. Public hearings, interested persons may appear and be heard via Zoom. The agenda was posted on the town website, and notice gave a link to the minutes with Zoom instructions and caller numbers for members of the public to attend. All written communications received as part of the applications will be posted to the town website with the final agenda no later than 24 hours prior to the meeting. Written communication mailed to the Land Use Office, P.O. Box 97, Cornwall, Connecticut, or sent electronically to cwlanduse@optonline.net, dated the 20th October 2020 by myself. Regarding the first application, public notice, you are accustomed to notifications to abutting neighbors. The first application is a subdivision. There are no requirements in the regulations for notices to abutting neighbors. It does require a list of the abutting neighbors, which is now on the record. And the information on the town website prior to 7 p.m. last night, November 9th, was a copy of the application is found on file in the Land Use and available electronically by request to the Land Use Office. The application was signed by the applicant owner. Mapping was entitled Potter Woods for Cornwall Housing Corporation by Herrick Associates dated August 26, 2020, 337 Town Street. The sheets include the map, site development plan, and erosion and sedimentation control plan. The list of abutting neighbors is a separate document. The inland wetlands report and what presentation map, which Ken is going to be putting up, or maybe a new presentation map, which was referenced in the wetlands minutes. And I have received email communications, which were up on the website from Ginny Block, Hector Prudhomme, Ella Clark, and I think those were the ones that I got up last night. And then in addition, we have received communications and right up to shortly before the meeting, I received an email from Susan Francesco regarding this application. What's your pleasure? Would you like me to read excerpts from everything, or what you would like me to do?
What do we normally do? Don't we read communications into the public record that have not made it into the website?
We can do that, and I will just quickly go back and speak to the fact that what is on the website from, first of all, Hector Prudhomme, who's in attendance, wishes, dear commissioners, I wish to give my support to Ginny Potter subdivision to create 2 new lots. I strongly commend Ginny for this selfless act of public service town and its residents, and strongly urge you to approve her plan as soon as possible. There it goes on to read, and you can read the entire thing.
Sharon, could I stop you? Those letters that are on the website are going to be part of the public record.
Right. I thought I would
It's
just
written
read 2
format.
sentences from each. Just
Okay.
okay.
All right. Okay.
Ella Clark, an email, delighted to learn that her neighbor Ginny Potter is creating 2 lots for the house. Ginny Block, who wrote in support of the subdivision by Ginny Potter, delighted that Ginny has made this general offer to the parcel program. And then from Susan Francesco, proud owner of a home in the Cornwall Housing Corporation parcel program. So she spoke in favor. Barton's, he spoke in favor of the application. And then I received information from Ginny Potter today to report her phone conversation with Oliver Platt on Friday, November 6th, whose neighbor. He had received the notice and had looked at the information and map on file. He asked several questions. He then admitted that when he first saw the proposed buildings on the site, he was worried. When I said that with oversight of the Housing Corporation and the P&Z, and basically the property's wetland soils, no development could be permitted. He said he supported the proposal. It would help Cornwall and also be compatible with the neighborhood. He will be out of the town for the meeting submitted by Jenny Potter. And let me see, I have one from Daunt. As you can tell, I was struggling to get some of my all my information up. Doc Samant, who again is an abutting neighbor. Mark D. Samant is an abutting landowner. I'm in full agreement of this application. As an inaugural member and first selectman Patsy Van Doren's Housing Task Force in 1980s, my mother's years on the later Cornwall Housing Corporation, our family has looked for ways to increase opportunities for the less advantaged to live in Cornwall. One of them. I hope the commission will vote in favor of the application. I think I have taken care of all of the housekeeping in terms of that. I want to add some other documents that are needed. We received Torrington Area Health approval this afternoon for the subdivision. The one thing I am going to point out, as I pointed out on some previous subdivisions, there's I'm asking that the requirements for Mylars to be prepared prior to the meeting to be submitted as part of the application. It is not necessary, and it's kind of a waste of money because changes are going to be made. So that is a technical request by myself, that the Mylars are not available and that the requirement that they be part of the application. And I think that is all I have.
All right. Then I think it's time to go to the applicant and her representatives.
Yes.
And we need to unmute Peter Ebersol, who was speaking.
Sure.
So I'm Peter Ebersol, and I'm delighted to be acting on behalf of the property owner, Virginia Potter, as well as the applicant, the Cornwall Housing. Before I turn this over to Ken Ricca, who will describe the plan, I'd like to just make a few comments. This is an application, as has been stated, for a 2-lot, but I'd also like to add that it's also in effect an application for Section 8-26 as a special permit, wherein the Cornwall specifically permit, with the approval of the commission, two town-sponsored lots to be in R zones or R5 zones that have a minimum of 1 acre. Now, our two proposed lots, as you'll see from Ken's description of the lots, exceed 1 acre. And as has been noted by your clerk, we have wetlands approval, and we just today received approval of Torrington Area Health District. So at this point, I'd like Ken Ricca to kind of give you an overview of the plans.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Kenneth Ricca. I am an engineer and licensed land surveyor, and I have an office in Litchfield, Connecticut. And I'm here tonight to talk about my site plan. And I'd like, if everybody's okay with, share my screen and put up a presentation drawing that shows what we're doing on the site.
That's fine. Don't you have to share the screen with him, Janelle? Yeah.
Yeah, he should have the permission. Great.
Okay, we have a presentation copy of the site plan. Zoom in a little bit. It does show the entire property that Mrs. Potter owns. The land itself is a 28.3 acre property. on the west side of Town Street, and as Peter mentioned, it is in the R3 zone, so we do have the capability of using section 8.26 of the zoning regulations for town or nonprofit sponsored lots. Now, I guess technically you could call this a 3-lot subdivision because when all is said and done, there will be 3 lots in total. Mrs. Potter's house would be the lot in the middle, and she's going to retain 5 acres and some open fields adjacent to her house. And she's willing to donate 2 acres. We initially looked at possibly getting acres on the site, but the Housing Corporation felt it was more prudent just to go with 2 and keep the neighborhood in a very rural fashion. So we've created 2 separate lots, one to the south, which we call proposed lot 1, and one to the north, which we call lot 2. The lot to the south is 1.17 acres, and I'll zoom in a little bit to show you the layer. And it's a very modest lot. It has a simple driveway coming into basically a rectangular house, shown a box that's roughly 50 by 30. And why we do that is that most houses aren't perfectly square. So any house that's built here is likely not going to have as big of a footprint, but it will have some jigs and jogs in it that will fit within the rectangular box that we are showing. We are proposing a well. The lots will be served by sewer and water. We show one back, and we show the septic system out in front. The septic system for both lots will be gravity fed, and we are in compliance with Torrington area health regulations. And as Karen said, a report did come in from Kathy Weber today approving the section. Sliding over, what we had to do to satisfy Torrington area health is actually show a septic reserve area on Potter's lot. And that's for in the event that her septic system fails. We did have to show that there's plenty of room for her to also have a repair septic system for her existing house, which she will keep. And then we have lot number 2. Same basic configuration as lot 1, same box for the house size, modest driveway coming in, well in the back, and septic system in front. And again, that is gravity. I think one of the inspiring parts of this subdivision is, and I am going around, is that the total area of the property is 28.3 acres. One is just over 1. Virginia Potter's lot is 5, and lot 2 is just over 1 acre as well, which means that 20.91 acres of land is going to be donated in perpetuity as open space. So the land around this development is going to remain as is and will not be touched. And I think the combination of the lot sizes and the open space and Mrs. having a 5-acre lot to herself still is really an ideal situation. And I think it sets the character of the neighborhood and fits the character of the neighborhood with the amount of open space that's going with this. I think I've basically given you an overview, and if commissioners have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them, and I can zoom in and out. And I also have the other plans in the set if there's something else you'd like to see as this drawing.
I'll ask any commissioners with questions to address the applicants.
Ms. Laporta, do the driveways meet grade requirements?
Yes, they do. The lots are fairly level. I'll zoom in on each to show you that. As we come in off the road, we're only changing roughly 4 feet of grade from the roadway coming in. So we're fine. It's coming there. The houses are approximately 80 feet back from the roadway. And if I slide over to lot 1, we have a situation. We're about 4 feet elevation change from the roadway going downhill. So the driveways are fairly gradual. do meet the regulations.
Thank you.
I'm going to ask a question. I know Gordon Ridgeway is in the audience. The town highwayman usually reports in on the driveway. Can I ask you, Gordon, to address that?
Sure. Yeah, the driveway location, I think, are fine. It's good sight lines there, and it's a very low traffic road. I don't see there being any issues there at all. So, from
Thank you, Gordon.
And
big
just
thumbs
on
up
my
from the highway department.
on behalf of the engineering of the driveways, just it's clear that we've created turnarounds for each of us so that they do not have to back out into Town Street. And it also provides additional parking. There can be parking in front of the buildings, parking and still a way to come in, nose into the lots, and then turn around and drive out without having to back into the highway.
Very good.
Ken, I have a couple quick questions. This is Keith Bodwell. I see that there's swales to take into account the leak off and the cross culvert that go into those lots. Was any analysis done of the flows through those? I see the swales are fairly shallow, about a foot deep in some that you propose.
The swales are shallow. They're 1 foot deep swales. We have 12-inch pipes into those swales, so the swale actually can handle more water given its shape, because it does have 2-to-1 slope. So it's approximately wide at the top, 1 foot wide at the bottom. Or I'm sorry, 5 feet wide at the top, one foot wide at the bottom. So it has more than capacity to handle the flows coming out of those culverts that are coming towards it.
That's good. And then on the curtain drains you have there, is there any kind of energy dissipator? I didn't see any symbol for what the stones look like there at the end of your piping.
It's typically what we show. We did not call it a true energy dissipator, but we do show a stone outlet area just to catch the water that's coming actually out of the pipe. It'll be a very low velocity flow because we're only collecting groundwater, so there won't be a lot of volume. But over time, if the pipe is slightly and leaks out, it will create a slight erosion. So we do show on both of those stone endings so that the pipes outlet in stones.
All right. I think that might be all. And also on the lot to the northerly lot there, I guess it's number 3. You have some pretty steep slopes on proposed. You have, it looks like 2-to-1 off the house. Are those necessary, or is that just a proposal for now? And
we could have spread the contours a little wider, but in order to keep the house up on the grade and make it more conducive for driving, we decided to go with those slopes. We could feather a little bit more. It would just require more grading on the downhill side if the commissioners wish to ask for that.
I think that's all I got.
I am going to point out, Karen Nelson speaking, that as part of the inland wetlands report, both of these lots will require reapplication to the inland wetlands, and in particular on the other one where there is activities within regulated areas for handling of the various kinds of water that's coming in and going across the site into the back wetlands. So the wetlands report does require these to come back into wetlands to be reviewed for everything, for all activities in and around 150 feet away from wetland soils.
And Karen, just wanted to clarify, these lots will have to come back to us too once they have actual proposed house going on them and everything, right? So
there'll be a zoning permit. They'll be part of a zoning permit for house construction, which will require a wetlands permit. Yes, I will be signing off on them administratively because it's a zoning construction of a home, which is administrative, but it can't be signed off without area health and another wetlands review. Yeah.
Just to clarify for me, the wetlands have signed a subdivision. But once a house is proposed to be built, then they need to review again. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
The Inland Wetlands Commission only issues a report, and let me see if I can, and the report based on the fact that, here we go. The commission, by unanimous, the agency has reviewed the plans as provided, which are the ones that you're seeing here, referenced and discussed with activities proposed within regulated areas. It is the agency that the conceptual designs as submitted have satisfied the concerns of the agency, and that the final plans for the construction of the single-family homes will require submission to the Inland Wetlands Agency for final approval. So that is the report. They're not approving the actual lots. What they're approving is that it can be constructed in the way that was described with minimal or little impact to wetlands and water courses.
All right, that's clear. Other questions from commissioners?
Karen, I have one quick question that maybe you can answer. Normally our have to fall within the buildable area, but because of these are being affordable housing lots, we don't have a buildable area. Is there any requirement that I'm missing that be within the setbacks or anything like that?
Ken, maybe you can answer that question? Because they're partly in the buildable area, in the very front, correct?
Well, they fall outside of the building setback, so I don't know if we have anything. We normally require them to be within the area, but there's no buildable area for requirement for, as far as I can tell in our regs.
Actually, there's 100 square foot buildable area to the center. I'm going to let Ken address.
This is Ken Ricka again. We did show a buildable area around the lots. Section 8.6 says we don't have to, but we try to stay as close to the intent of the regulations as possible. Septic system areas are regulated by Torrington Area Health District, and they do have setbacks from property lines, and those are met. There's a 15-foot setback from side property lines, or property lines that are on the side of the system, I should say. And downhill from the system, we're required to maintain a 25-foot setback. When all is said and done, this will be long. And so it actually, I don't think it really makes a difference whether they would fit in the buildable or not, because you'll never see them once they're underground. And they do meet health district and state health department regulations.
Anything else? Commission? In that case, we're going to open the hearing to public questions and or commentary. Those of you who would like to make comments, please use your chat function to let Janelle know.
Madam Chairman?
Yes?
So I'd like to just make a few more comments on behalf of the applicant.
Oh, please do.
Okay. So
sorry about that.
As I indicated, that we do have to have the guidelines of both the specific special permit requirements, which Ken was addressing, that is section 8-26, and as section on the general standards for a special exception. And I believe we meet all those. The lots will be perpetually owned by the Cornwall Housing Corporation, and what we'll be doing, as we've done with many other lots, we call it our affordable lot program. People will have 99-year leases, and there will be covenants in the documents that require limitations on the income of the people who would occupy these houses, because we want to make sure that these truly are, intended for the affordable housing people that we had trying to support by doing this project, as Ginny has generously agreed. As far as the general standards in Section 8-5, specifically Section 3B, we believe that the character and the intensity of the proposed use will be in harmony with the appropriate and orderly development of the neighbor town. It's interesting that several of the neighbors of this property have in their own letters commented on how we will fit in with the character of the neighborhood. And I think that goes a long way to establishing that as a fact, if the people who live there are not challenging the impact that these two additional houses on the neighborhood. And finally, there's nothing about our plan that will be detrimental to public health, safety, and welfare. At the end of our presentation, but Ken and I will be on the call for the remainder of the hearing if there are any other people from the public that have any questions.
I very much appreciate those comments. Thank you. All right, now we'll move on to the public questions and comments. While Janelle is collecting people through chat, is there anybody on the phone who wants to hit star to unmute themselves to indicate that they would like to make a comment?
Madam Chair, it does look as though who was calling in is no longer in attendance, just for your knowledge.
Okay, okay. So do you want to carry on, Janelle? And
Sure. So right now we have two people queued for public speaking. The first, and I apologize for any name pronunciation. The first is Lisa. It looks like
That's exactly right.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm Lisa Keskinen. I'm both Ginny Potter's niece, and I live across Town Street from these properties. And I just want to add my family's support on behalf of my mom, Peg, and my sister, Mindy, that we are, that this is going to happen in our neighborhood, and we look forward to welcoming new folks in the neighborhood.
okay, and next.
Madam Chair, next up is Gordon Ridgeway.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. And yeah, just like to say a few words and again, echo everyone's thanks to Ginny Potter for taking leadership in this area and meeting a long-time need and a current need in town to have a variety of housing options open to people. The parcel program has been in Cornwall for a long time, and it has. We'll get a residence here, and I think the latest data showed that the average house price has gone up 70% in the town of Cornwall last year. So as Cornwall's become a hot location, it's gotten farther away from some people's ability to live here. And very timely, great leadership, and again, the Potters have done over a very long period of time great things for the town. Just again, great leadership, and I know other people are considering doing similar things. It's in a great location, as I said before, a pretty quiet part of town, and certainly this subdivision will only enhance life for the people who live in that area. So again, thank you, Ginny, and everyone else.
And Janelle, I saw that Dave Colbert has it. So is he last?
Yes, correct. He's the third and final that I have in the queue.
Okay. Go ahead, Dave.
Oh, can you hear me? I'm not so good at Zoom, so.
We can hear you just fine.
Okay. Anyway, this is an exemplary application, of course. I've, in my experience with P&Z, I haven't seen many as generous as this, and I hope it sets an example for others, and thank you, Ginny.
All right, this is the last chance for public commentary.
Can staff
Okay.
make a comment?
Sure.
Can
Go
staff
ahead,
make-
Steph. Go on.
I would just like to say I've been here for quite a while, and as difficult as some things can be in terms of land, this is the kind of application and the kind of person that makes my job really worthwhile and very heartwarming. Thank you, Ginny, for all the wonderful things you've done for the town, and this is just, I wish more people and more towns created this program and had people like you to support it. Thank you.
All right. Do I need a motion to close the hearing, Karen, or do I just close it?
Motion.
Need a motion. So I'm asking for a motion to close this public hearing.
Was there another message that just came from somebody, from Carolyn, it looks like?
Yeah, thank you for that.
Do you want to answer that, Janelle? What was that?
So I believe to Caroline, the question is if public comment is still open, and yes, it's still open.
Does she realize it's for the subdivision?
It's only for the Potter subdivision.
So at this time, correct. She said, okay, thanks, so.
I see that. Okay,
Yeah.
so now I'm requesting a motion to close the hearing.
So
So
moved.
moved.
Second.
All right, so James and Steve. All in favor? Put your
Aye.
hands up, please. All right, the motion carries. This hearing is closed. We will next be on to our second public hearing. We have a total of 3 this evening. Before I asked Janelle to outline the changes in our conditions pertaining to free second cuts. I just want to state that this amendment to our zoning regulations was an initiative of the Planning and Zoning Commission. And we were responding to certain conditions that exist in Cornwall, which were also reflected in the goals and strategies of our 2020 Plan of Conservation and Development. It's generally accepted that having to pay more than 30% of your income for mortgage payments or rent makes a house unaffordable. The last data available from our Census Bureau, the 2013 through 17 American Community Survey, indicated that the median, this 2017 data, indicated that the median house value in Cornwall was $439,600, as in Litchfield County's median of $250,100. Also, the percent of homeowners in Cornwall, mortgage payments used up more than 30% of their income was 35%. And when it came to renters, this number went up to 47%, paying more than 30% of their monthly income for housing. That is the background for the creation of the amendment, which I'm now going to ask Janelle to describe and show us.
Yeah, happily. So for everyone that worked with thus far, I'm Janelle Mullen. I'm very pleased to be here. I've been serving the town, just working as consulting. To give you just a quick background, I'm a regional planner with the COG. 5 years prior to that, I did serve as an assistant town planner and enforcement officer for the town of Mansfield, where the University of Connecticut is located. And then prior to, I earned my master's in Los Angeles. I am local. I was born and raised here. Just in working to get straight to the regulations, and this has been a process with the commission that we've been working on since the new year. So what I do want to stress is that the overall regulations article, and these pieces came forth as priorities due to the current economic situation, and just as what we could look at as some real regulations that we could potentially move through quickly. They were stressed in the plan of conservation and development, and then developed by this commission as a working group. So that was sort of the backstory. When I came in to work with the town of Cornwall, what I kept hearing and over in different sections was just, there's a lot of regulations. Can we clean these up and make sure that we're governing where we want, but then also stepping away to allow things to happen? So that was my approach moving forward. And another thought just to put out there is, because there are two priority regulations, I think what could get missed at first read is how it fits into the greater body of regulations. So some of the safeguards that are in all of the regulations for the welfare and the safety of the citizens and for our visitors, they are in there. They're just in different sections. So I just want to bring that to everyone's attention, because I've read through a lot of letters and am very open to any concerns or anything that one might have. I just want to reiterate that they fit into the greater body of regulations. We're fitting them in best we can right now, knowing that this is the approach and that the comprehensive rewrite is soon to follow. But that's just a quick backstory. Before getting into the details, I'd be happy to share. I do have the current form in front of me, and I want to point out, so really quickly, yes. So this document, I do want to point out a discrepancy between what's been posted on the website. The word free, from my understanding, was something that if my memory serves me, as a commission, as a group, we decided to get rid of. So it should be just attainable housing cut. I do see that the final draft, they're still free in there. So I just want to make it very clear that we're all on the same page with which, you know, word per word of what it is that we're reviewing and discussing this evening. So just, this is the document that I files as the finalized version, and just to pass that, that sentiment along about getting rid of the word free. But to move through the concept, so again, this is a new concept. It doesn't exist anywhere in the regulations, or it doesn't take parts of the regulations and but rather introduces a new concept, which is essentially, and I'm paraphrasing, so this is not language that will go into the regulations, exemption from the subdivision regulations should a property owner have excess land that they choose to donate to a local nonprofit. An example would be the Cornwall Housing Corporation. The provisions are laid out here. It would qualify as attainable housing, which would be defined in here. That's at 100% of the area median income. Just to be very clear, it is different from what the state recognizes as affordable, but it's still very valuable as increasing availability of housing to first-time homeowners, and just to have more diverse housing and housing lot size. So just important to call out that attainable housing definition. And then the requirement is that it's a buildable lot. So that's where that definition comes in here, that it's on a building lot and the parcel can satisfy the other general provisions of the regulations. So I think what isn't included in this short section is the other provisions that do come into play with all zoning regulations. So general provisions such as driveways, sanitary septic, hazardous materials, that's touched upon in other sections of the regulations all throughout. So I just don't want to lose sight of that. And then what we're referring to as the attainable housing cut for all language purposes, so no free attainable housing cut, is this creation of a lot that's authorized without subdivision approval, provided the property owner is donating the resulting lot to the town or a local nonprofit. And that's to be developed as attainable housing. A requirement of the regulation is that on the official map that it designates it as so, and it designates the very specific lot to be set aside for attainable housing. So that is all very clear in the application process. And then the final point on this page is just that if it's designated for the free housing, it still has to be in the standards of the regulations. So, you know, within a residential zone to be considered a buildable lot, and then to conform dimensional requirements in that zone.
Thank you, Janelle.
I'm open for questions or anything.
I will do a little bit of housekeeping so that everybody is on the right page, that we are taking the two regulatory process separately. So this is the attainable housing cut. I want to note that the legal notice that references was the record as part of the subdivision application. The amendments that have been on file in the town clerk's office 10 days prior to the hearing, posted on the town website several weeks ago, and that there has been information received, which was up on the website as well last night. In support letters, Ginny Block, Hector Prudhomme, and Ella Clark, and then there were several, and Bart's, and then there were several other letters that came in. David Colbert's letter came in with some comments regarding regulatory process, this regulatory change, and then a letter came in late today from Caroline Nastri with some several, as far as I can tell, several paragraphs referring to this, and read those into the record whenever you want me to.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, start with David Colbert's. His paragraph, I afraid though laudable, this regulation contains difficulty, probably not limited to the following examples. Under subsection 1 and purpose, I suggest changing a building lot design, close paren, to the building lot designated, closed paren, as a commission might be exempting from subdivision regulations all subdivisions as long as one building lot was affordable. Question. Action mark after that. Under number 2, buildable lot, what does the word adequate mean in a way that can be enforced? So those are as much questions as, and I think Janelle will be addressing those questions as well. And let me see. I think in Caroline Nastri's letter, some questions. It goes, I'm trying to get what is in here between home-based business as a letter is for both applications, but the question I think that is raised the most in her correspondence is questions about the statutory requirement that we have regarding first cuts and second cut being supported by the statutes. But I would point out that this free cut, second cut language, which was in the preservation and development, is similar to that which is in surrounding towns. In Goshen, they have a second free cut, I think is called, for family members, and other towns have put these provisions in their zoning regulations, and they have been upheld legally in the state of Connecticut. So Caroline, I believe, is in attendance and might have some other questions, but I did want to address that. This whole process is directly related to verbiage in the Plan of Conservation Development about this particular kind of process that was by example from other towns. So I'm done.
All right. So members of the audience who wish to comment, I hope you have been letting Janelle know through the chat function. And Janelle, do you have anybody so far? Shall we give everybody a second to let you know that they have something to say?
Yeah, give me a quick second. And stop, let me see, stop the share. Yeah, I'm waiting to see who. And I can pull up the document at any time. No one in the chat thus far.
Okay. In that case, I will request a motion from a member of the commission.
Oh, wait, here we go. Sorry.
Sorry. I need to give people more time. I realize.
Oh, it takes time,
Yeah.
don't worry. So I do see Caroline Nastro is in the comments and she'd like to make a comment. And she's just saying go first because Gordon would like to comment as well.
All right. Gordon?
Yes, I just think it's good to get this because there are other people that have considered doing what Ginny has, we've seen accomplished tonight by herself, and I think the town should encourage this type of thing as opposed to restrict things, because there are I know people that would like to live here but can't because of the premium and the lack of supply of obtainable lots, and this is a good way to do it. And I think we should encourage it and not penalize people that wish to help us all make a more diverse community. And again, it's a lot of small steps in that direction, but we need to take the small steps if we're going to get there. And I think, again, trying to encourage people's good intentions is a good thing to do. So again, for bringing this forward.
Thank you, Gordon. Caroline? It's your turn.
Okay. I have questions about it. These may have been already answered. I think in David's letter, he may have asked them address some of the points that David Colbert made.
Sure, I would be happy to, and I might need to clarify a question of his. Absolutely. Okay. I do have that letter in front of me for the record.
Okay, great.
Yeah, and I have yours as well. I do have to say I didn't read it prior to this evening. It was emailed just this evening, so I haven't had as much time as I'd like to spend on it.
So Janelle, you're referencing the one paragraph that David has that I read into the record, the language change as well.
So I'm looking at his November 9th dated letter.
Yep.
And you read that in its entirety. So I believe
section 4.
Maybe I should respond, because having read Dave's letter, I've already thought I would propose a change in the language to change the I don't know what part of grammar it is, but to turn the A into a the for better clarity, and to get rid of the words adequately, which don't, I agree with Dave, are difficult to interpret. And as far as the adequate, it had to do with the sewer or sewage plan. And we could, state more clear that it has to be approved by the Torrington Area Health District, which is probably obvious based on the rest of the motion. So when we come to make a motion, I had planned to incorporate the changes that David recommended.
And Madam Chair, just for the record's sake, if it helps, I can bring the screen up and make all those changes so it's very apparent and
you can go right ahead and do it. It was my intention to ask for a motion with those changes in place.
Okay. Okay.
Caroline, does that answer what you wanted?
Yeah, I was just wondering, there's that piece that I think might have brought up where it says, so in terms of this lot, when you read the language, it seems like there could be the potential for the domain. It seems like there could be the potential for several lots to be created as long as one is assigned to essentially affordable. Because it says in the language, the piece is, it says that basically that at least one of them has to be for affordable housing. So how is that? Yeah, so can you address that, please?
That's, I'm gonna reread this paragraph.
Yeah, I'll bring it up just so we
Okay.
can all look at it at the same time if that's constructive.
Yes.
Great. So this is in editing mode, so I'm happy to take a pen to it, and I always appreciate other people wordsmithing. It's always a help. Is that visible?
Right. So, yes. So under intent and purpose, under this provision, a property owner made a portion of their land to a local not-for-profit organization to be used for attainable housing. Where was that tricky A? No, here it is. The subdivision regulations will not be applied to this division of land, provided the building lot designated for attainable housing is a component of the property line modification. I'm not sure that exactly makes clear that the intent is that this cut is only for housing, and that you don't get to create, 10 lots and just designate one as an attainable housing cut. That was not our intent, correct?
Yeah, I think that's the problem, is that it doesn't make that clear, I think.
Well, was that our intent, Janelle? It seems to me that it was.
Yes, and so just to actually read an excerpt from Caroline's letter, okay with you, Caroline?
Yeah, that's fine.
Great. So this is an important point, and now in thinking this through, I think it's important. So you say, for example, because the proposed regulations only require when land is divided that will not be subject to subdivision regulation, that one building lot be donated to an attainable housing project, the regulations open up the possibility that a person could, for example, buy a 100-acre lot in Cornwall and then build 99 houses on this division on 1-acre plots, as long as one plot is to attainable housing.
Right.
So, and I mean, I see how that can certainly be construed as an example. However, there are other controls in place for the prevention of such a division in that way, given that having 99 housing lots, 1-acre lots, they would all, I mean, that's sort of this extreme example. I'm trying my brain.
I just gave that as a very extreme example.
Yeah, no, I mean, the sentiment is understood. So just to kind of rate your example, the thought is if someone were to come in and want to divide their property into 5 lots, but only put one aside for attainable housing, is that kind of what your concern is?
I'm jumping in here. That's actually how I read this. The article.
For the matter of the record, we need the name of the speaker, please. This is.
I'm sorry. This is Christine Gray.
Okay.
And granted, I only read this article today, but that was actually how I read it, and so I assumed it was a way of, much like with estate planning, if you're doing a subdivision for the purposes of estate planning, you may waive the fee. I read this as being, if you're doing a subdivision and you one of the lots, then you don't have to deal with the rest of the subdivision regulations.
All right. So these are all bringing up something very important. And we need to find a way to fix that wording. David had suggested change to a "the," but I think that what we need to say is the subdivision regulations will not be applied to this division provided that any building lots created are designated for attainable housing. So that it's only under that circumstance that this attainable cut can be free of the subdivision regulation.
Cut singular.
Well, Ginny has
cut, not cuts. Everything reads cut singular.
Yeah.
Go back to the technical
problem. Ginny created 2, and
that's by special permit. That was by special permit through subdivision. It's 2 different
Right.
animals.
Christine Gray here. It also says attainable housing cut, last paragraph. It says the resulting lots. That's plural. That may be part of the problem. Left-hand column all the way at the bottom.
Oh, sorry. I'm trying to follow. That the resulting and the sheet.
Right.
With
well,
do you want a parentheses around the S or just a singular lot?
I think we want to make it clear that we would like people to feel free to create more than one attainable housing lot if they desire to do so.
But Anna, do we want to, in the extreme example, have somebody put 99 or
attainable housing
lots on that 100-acre, parcel?
Okay.
That changes the character of our community.
All right,
just to jump in, correct me if I'm wrong, but subdivision would it pull if subdivision was defined in this particular section? Granted, it is in the regulations in the entire body, but in this particular section, should one quickly read this section and then be confused by what a subdivision is versus qualifying for an equal housing cut?
That's a very good point.
Because I think that's where the confusion might lie right now. The definition of subdivision is apart. Let me verify that in the current regulations. I believe it is, but like just off the cuff, the definition of subdivision is like of a lot into 2 or more parcels, provided it hasn't been previously subdivided. There's a longer technical, but helpful to either reference subdivision or I'm looking at the current zoning regulations as they stand. Subdivision defined toward where it at the end of the body of work, where in this current version of the regulations, which effective version currently, so it might, especially for clarification purposes, given that this amendment would occur before the rewrite, to just include a definition of subdivision so it doesn't get misconstrued.
Okay. I am getting a general impression that, and commission members may disagree with me if do, that we would best continue this hearing to next month to enable us to get the language right.
I agree, Anna.
Yeah.
I also agree.
Okay, so I would accept any comments from staff before I ask for a motion. Does that sound reasonable to you too, Janelle?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. All right, so Aaron?
No one else wanted to speak. I just wanted to make sure that we're watching the bottom. Okay.
Is there public comment still for the other sections of the law? I mean,
we have not yet discussed the home business.
Oh, okay.
We're taking this in 3 parts.
Great, okay. Can I make a suggestion about that first part that might solve the problem of that confusion? It might work to just have the subdivision regulations that only the subdivision, only the lots or 2 or however many allocated to affordable housing be not subject to the regular subdivision regulations, whereas the division itself would be subject to that. So that, so that once the division is made, that it's clear that the other parcel of land is still subject to some regulations. That might also make it clearer, perhaps.
Okay. I think I'm going to ask for a motion from a member to table this hearing until our next regularly scheduled meeting in December. Could somebody ran it? Keith, and James is the second. All in favor, raise your hands, please, so we can see it. Okay, that motion carries. We are now up to our final public hearing, or the final portion of our public hearing, rather. This is.
Could I point something out? Is Peter Eversole and Ken Harika still attending this meeting?
I don't think so.
I don't see the quick glance, Karen.
Okay. I just wanted to point out that usually commissions defer to the fact that when you have professionals brought in at a hearing, that if there's an expected motion to approve something, that the courtesy is given so that professionals.
I didn't know that ahead of time.
Yeah, well, if we're going into the third one, because I know Peter was going to stay to listen to the attainable part of the attainable piece as well, but if he's left, then we don't have to worry about it. I see 24 participants, but I'm not sure I see them all. So, okay, thank you.
Okay, as previously, I want to state that this amendment has also been brought forward by the Planning and Zoning Commission in response to certain conditions that prevail in Cornwall, and it is tied to our plan of conservation and development. I'm going to quote Census Bureau data from 2017 that at that time, 16.2% of Cornwall residents worked from home and 6% considered themselves self-employed. Now, I'm willing to bet that in 2020, we have a lot more people work home than 16.2%. But at that time in 2017, the same data for Litchfield County and for the state as a whole was in single digits, not double digits. So Cornwall is unique. And I also want to mention that the 2019 Cornwall-wide survey conducted by the P&Z in preparation for the Plan of Conservation and Development, 52% of respondents felt that increasing opportunities for businesses to establish themselves here should be among the 3 priorities for the town. So with that said, I'm going to ask Janelle now to go over the details of our proposed regulation.
Great. So I'll share my screen one more time. I'll bring up this PDF. So this is the final cut version that we're all looking at. I do have editable version. So just a quick brief overview. Home businesses, it is currently in the existing regulations. It's under a special use. And the way that it was written when I joined working with the commission was home businesses were broken into 4 categories, like home enterprise, major home business, shop and service, something along those lines. So those 4 categories were in place, and the home businesses had certain criteria that they needed to meet to be in those categories. So at first read was looking at rewriting the regulations. I did notice the POCD did make mention of making home business regulations a little more user-friendly for businesses in towns. So that was why we started at this point. And I thought through those categories, and the direction that I took was just based upon the fact that at my glance and at my read, it just through how to make the regulations more user-friendly without feeling that all these other regulations had to be in the categorization of the home businesses. And then a big change from where we are to where we're going is taking it away from special permit. We understand moving it into site plan is a concern in many of the letters received. But just to go over quickly the thinking. So the thought was, again, to make it more user-friendly for residents to come into town. At my first glance of reading the regulations, it was a little cumbersome to get through the different categories and to understand the intent of the regulations. And then to allow for home businesses through a site plan that's very prescriptive approval. But then I think a big important part is the small scale, and that it really is truly accessory to the residential use of the property. And in understanding any application, that's sort of the analysis that is conducted. So we brought more details into what would be required applications, so much more on the front end with the narrative and hours and how the land is going to be utilized, so that the commission could have understanding of the use of the lot in relation to the neighborhood, the use of the lot in relation to the street, etc. And then really think how it's secondary to the primary use of the residence. There's that maximum square footage, which is commonly used. It was used in the older versions to cap what can be designated for that home business use in addition to the residential use. In the previous version, retail sales were permitted, and it was required that the commission receive a list of all of the products that were being sold. Having just as a zoning enforcement agent, I just didn't always find that practical with a zoning enforcement officer asking for a list of everything being sold really in practice. So now retail sales are potentially permitted. It doesn't require them. It doesn't prohibit them either. And then a thought about traffic and parking and safety is really to make sure that the lot can contain the use on itself. So getting rid of any off-street parking that could be a result if this home business truly isn't small scale. So that's where, if you're looking at document in C, we really dug into making sure that all the parking can be contained on the lot, whether it's small scale coming, deliveries coming, and then also visitors or potential clients coming to the property. So really making sure the property can serve that use in and of itself without adjacent parcels or public right of way. And then again, this would be hashed out through the site plan approval, but throughout designated areas, the nature of the business in relation to how travel will occur on that site. So if it's a home business narrative, really stresses an emphasis on deliveries of materials, deliveries of goods. If it's someone at home that's using materials to craft something, that designated areas for delivery, loading, etc., are all taken care of through the approval process. So it doesn't cause concern within the neighborhood, be it the coming and goings of vehicles. So a lot of the point was to make sure a site plan application coming through is very, very detailed and very, very meticulous, and that the commission can then make a decision based on those prescriptive requirements of making that there's, you know, these operational details and everything along those lines. And then moving through to the appearance of the property, again, stressing that it should be residential, it should look like a home, it should smell like a home, it should act like a home. So again, stressing that the home business being incidental to the overall use of the house as a residence. So limiting the signage, and then the other requirements are just making sure that materials, equipment, business, anything is not visible from adjacent properties, screening be aired. This outside storage, this is, from what I've read, it seems to be a large number, and I know that was talked as potentially being excessive, this 10,000 square feet of outside storage. And then finally, and the important one, is just that the name not be adversely impacted. I think it's really important because these regulations are siloed right now. They're not a part of the bigger agreement. The site plan approval will take the applicant through everything that they need to satisfy. So other regulations, be it touring health, state departments, for example, if you have a cottage industry and you're baking and you have baked goods for sale. So that is very much laid out in the site plan regulations, being a part of the greater overarching rewrite of the regulations. This will fit into the regulations as they're written into the regulations. But I think it is really important to note that as we move forward with the rewrite, the site plan requirements will be very, very spelled out and really walk the applicant through each and every requirement that could be triggered through a site if someone is bringing an applicant before the commission as a site plan. But that said, I did read through the comments, concerns being raised with moving this from special permit to site plan because of the discretion of the commission involved. So I do want to, for the record, make note of being read and really thought through the comments that came through, but open to any questions, further comments.
So I'll ask people in attendance to volunteer for their chat. And Janelle will give us a list and start.
So Gordon, yeah, the 821, that was Gordon.
Yeah, so anyway, I think, again, thank the commission for their work trying to update the regulations. This is one thing. This has been pretty proactive about allowing people to work where they live, and it's had a very positive impact on the town, just for people to work there, but allowing people to have goods and services in town as opposed to having to go outside of town to get those things. And again, I think it's very important that the town doesn't just become a bedroom place, the real economic activity in the town. This was said over and over again through the town plan process, and making it more easily understood and easily to obtain, I think, and less arbitrary is only a good thing. And it's where people are at. There's more remote work being done nowadays, and I think it's important to have modern regulations that go with that evolution as opposed to trying to stop that evolution and making it harder for people to live where they work. I think a healthy town has people working there, living there, is a very positive thing. So I think this is very timely, and thank the commission for their work on bringing forward a very popular, important concept of the town plan. So thank you.
Thank you, Gordon. Who else, Janelle?
Christine Gray has it.
Hi. Does this require that the owner of the business occupy the residence? Does this have to be owner occupied, or is this a situation where, let's say somebody owns a property, they apply for business application and then rent the house out? Because there's no mention, I mean, it just talks about a residential lot, but it doesn't talk about who occupies the residence.
Yeah, I'd be happy to answer that. So with any action, it's required that either the owner or an agent of the owner signs it. So if I were a tenant in a property and I were to take it upon myself and start business without asking the property owner, that would definitely be between the tenant and the property owner, rather than what the Planning and Zoning Commission is really going to step in and say. So my understanding is the way that it's written, it's basically through that application process, it's very often the applicant or the agent that comes forth with the application. And should one not own the property, have the standing to put in an application, it Karen, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know how you process applications with the town, but my understanding is that if it's a tenant or someone, you would make sure that sign off from the property owner is coming through.
I try very hard to do that. I do my research. Yeah.
And then I mean, I guess my question was really about the residence. So you've got a residence and then a small business, home occupation. Does the owner of the business have to occupy the residence?
So rather than approaching it by getting into the user of the land, what I tend to do is really focus on the use, because that's what the land use regulations will be getting at. So that specification isn't there, meaning that it's like there's not an owner occupation requirement.
Okay, that was going to be.
If am I answering your
yes,
question?
I was trying to figure out if it's owner occupied. Like, could I go, let's say I had a bunch of small businesses. I could go buy 3 different lots, open different small businesses, you know, in the outbuildings of each, and then rent the residences if I wished.
Karen, my understanding with the application process that you would just specify who the applicant is versus the agent owner. But with this particular home business, that it's not being designated that be it the business is utilized by a tenant or a property owner.
Okay.
Is that clear? Sorry. Okay. Okay.
Any other people wishing to comment? I saw Carolyn.
Yeah, and I think David Colbert might want to speak. I think it came up as it didn't go to everyone, and he knows, he has a lot more knowledge than I do, so defer to him.
Well, did Dave notify Janelle that, or?
I don't see his name in the chat, but I did mention earlier that you don't love.
Do you have anyone else on your list at the moment?
Just Caroline at the moment.
I'm the only one. Okay.
David, would you like to speak?
Oh, David's about to speak. I'm sorry.
Well, I tried to send a chat. I guess I wasn't successful.
Feel free, though, have at it with your comments, though.
Okay. So you saw my my letter. You all have that. So I won't go over that in detail, because you can refer to that. But I guess I could start off by asking ask Janelle that in your comments you said that more specificity to each of the characteristics, like for instance, hours of operation is going to be added to this regulation, or what we are seeing and it's what is posted for public hearing. Is this the regulation, or is there going to be specificity added to the site plan requirements?
Yeah, I do understand the question that you're asking, and I'm sorry if my choice was confusing. What it is intended to say is the commission, upon reviewing a narrative, the application narrative with all of those details, so be it hours of operation, whether it's open to visitors or outside employees, what the site access and the parking is looked like. So that's all initially applicable for the site plan. So that would be the onus of the applicant providing as much information as they could to the commission for their site plan approval of the application. So that's the application bringing forth the information to the commission rather than the commission mandating that specific information, if that makes sense. Some, for example, because of how flexible the regular are intended to be, home business might just be someone that has appointment only, so he wouldn't necessarily have a drop-off loading or pickups, so he wouldn't need to indicate it in the site plan, but it would be applicable for somebody that would. So that's where that language is flexible. If it's pertinent to the specific application that's before the commission, for them to have the full information would be a part of deeming that site plan. So for example, if I were an applicant and I were to say I'd have, a ceramic studio and I'd have hours where customers could come, it would be the onus of the commission to clarify that those hours are stated within my narrative. So that's where it's the applicant offering information to the commission, and then they're using their understanding of the narrative and the application and the nature of the business and the site plan and the way that the site is being used to discern if they have enough information to deem the application complete, and then furthermore to move forward and accept the application or deny the application.
Okay, so is my understanding correct that under site plan approval, if an applicant, as I wrote, if an applicant meets the terms of the regulation, the commission is obligated to approve it without any conditions.
That's correct. We do want to bring into the foray of the discussion is also general provisions that aren't seen in the language of these two amendments, but are overarching in all of regulations. So I noticed a comment about, protecting the health, safety, welfare of the citizens. That's inherent in all of the regulations, so that just because it isn't implicit within this specific section doesn't that that's not a part of the regulations. It's just a part of the broader body of regulations. So the need, for example, Torrington area health approval may not be applicable, and that's stated in the greater body of the regulations. It isn't tackled in this small home business regulation because the reg is just pertinent to home businesses or within this little portion of the regulations that you're viewing and reviewing.
So to follow with your example, you brought up like hours of operation has to be mentioned, because in this regulation, if approved, it says the application narrative shall include optional details such as the hours of operation. So suppose the applicant says, I'm going to be open, I'm a small manufacturing facility, and I'm going to be open 6 a.m. to we'll say 8 p.m. every day. Are they satisfying the site plan requirement to give you their hours or not?
Well, so the simple answer of your question is yes, they are satisfying the requirement of giving the hours. And
then is commission obligated to accept that because they are satisfying the terms site plan requirement. The commission is not able to impose any conditions under site plan approval. Under special permit approval, on the other hand, there's a lot of discretion. Under site plan, we'll just say, for the sake of argument, because this all becomes possible, someone can say, I've satisfied the hours. I'm going to be open basically all the time. I'll tell you about the loading and unloading. I'll have a couple floating docks. I'll have parking for 20 people, for 20 cars. I won't, maybe they're along the driveway, but they are on the site.
They would need to be indicated on the site plan very clearly within the dimensions of the parking, in addition to satisfy, setback requirements and circulation requirements.
But also permanent exterior lighting. And I'm at a short corner on a small road. that's where I am. So I'm informing you of that. Under site plan approval, the commission has completely abdicated its responsibilities to residential neighborhoods.
I do understand your concerns at the very literal read of this one section.
Well, I'll tell you, my experience on P&Z is regulations are quite literal.
As enforcement agent,
Yeah.
I'm very much in agreement.
So they're extremely literal. And if someone integrally satisfies what you have written, the commission is unable to question it.
I do want to bring into the concept the general provisions as well that are all lots and all uses in town, because I think that's where some safeguards might be getting lost, such as your example of outdoor illumination, because those standards that are applicable everywhere to prohibit and also to prohibit this loss of to prohibit that use. So outdoor illumination is intended to be in the general provision so that it wouldn't come into play anywhere in town with any use in town, not just specific to home businesses, but that would be covered. For example, like hazardous material.
Sure.
Hazardous material will be touched upon within general provisions. And it's also what also govern the regulations are permitted uses, because the regulations are permissive in their nature. The uses, it's not like a home business can come in with a use that isn't defined in the use table or in the use chapter of the regulations as permissible in town. So I absolutely understand the concerns of taking away the discretion from the commission as a site plan versus a special permit. But I do think some of the concerns are addressed elsewhere in the regulations. I tried to make a quick list before this meeting of example, access and hazardous material. Whereas, driveways in the health code, that does come into play, and that's inherent in the regulations. I do understand what you're saying about an applicant can satisfy, A, B, C, D, E, F, and then their approval. So I do understand what you're saying, but I also think that the greater context of the body of regulations is also maybe being missed.
Well,
but I might be mistaken.
If I could just say that Dave doesn't know, and nor does anybody else who has read our old regulations, how profoundly we are restructuring format of our regulations, starting with just changing the whole as you read through it. And I think that's leading to some of these concerns. And if given us to view this section in the context of the whole, I think that the concerns would be very different. So I'm wondering if we made a mistake trying to bring these sections forward before the rest of the changes.
And I do want to add on, Madam Chair, is just I completely understand the concerns with taking a home business from special into the site plan process, and I'm very aware of what that changes as far as the discretion of the commission in approaching the regulation rewrite, and just thinking through where I've been involved with commissions that do unfortunately get themselves in trouble is sometimes when the need to exercise discretion is there and it is inconsistently applied to the manner in which applications are approved and also being conditioned. So just as a little backstory of the intention of taking the regulations away from that discretion, I think intention was there to get rid of the opinion decisions that may sometimes be made by commissions, and certainly not this commission. We're very informed, but I think just thinking through, I read your letter and I'm very aware of your concerns, and I also think it will only make us like rethink how they're being presented in the regulations currently, the way that they are written. That makes sense.
Any other comments or discussion? Dave?
Yeah, say something else?
Certainly.
Thank you. You know, the that wanting to take away discretion from the commission because commissions sometimes goof in that, and therefore eliminating all discretion seems to me a peculiar argument. But I have, you know, I just have something I'd like to read. It'll only take a couple of minutes, and then I'll probably be all done.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I'm just gonna thank you for allowing these comments. You know, as you all know, I came off of planning and zoning a year ago after 19 years of service. It seems to me, based on my experience, this particular home business regulation presents the most radical overhaul of our zoning regulations in all my time on P&Z. In my opinion, it would turn residential zones into mixed use residential, commercial, industrial zones. Not only that, but by taking special permit requirements off the table, it strips P&Z of meaningful oversight and deprives neighbors of advanced knowledge of potentially large commercial developments right next door. I mean, I'll just add here, you say this is accessory. Well, someone has an 8,000 square foot house. They can have 4,000 square foot business. They can prove accessory, I think, pretty easily. This on draft regulation, I believe, is at odds with the Commission's core responsibilities, as stated at the beginning of your regulations. I feel it is also at odds with the town plan, seeks a balance between development and preserving natural resources. Public hearings are meant to solicit, I'm almost done. Public hearings are meant to solicit comments from the public. When I was on P&Z, we made regular use of the Cornwall Chronicle and the Cornwall website to inform the public, seek comments, and make clear that important public hearings that might directly affect residents' lives are occurring. So here I'm ending with a question. Here's this question. Why has this public hearing been set with no announcement in the Chronicle? Don't you think that is reason enough to hit pause and begin the process after the public can be adequately informed? So those are a couple questions I'm closing with.
Thank you.
Has the public hearing been set without an announcement in the Chronicle? That's the essential question.
Well, the public hearing was set according to the statutory requirements. The notice went into the website and into the newspaper, correct, Karen?
The legal notice goes up on the website, the regulations go up on the website.
Yeah. As
You're
you
talking,
know,
David, you're talking about a policy that perhaps prevailed when you were chair, and perhaps it should prevail again. I don't recall such announcements myself.
Oh.
But
And-
it's a good suggestion. It is a good suggestion.
well,
I don't think it should discount this public hearing.
in the ag regs, as you well know, there were many announcements in the Chronicle. If you want to have public comment, how can you expect public comment if people don't know about it? I only found out about this by accident the end of last week.
Well, I'm going to propose now that someone give me a motion to table this hearing.
Madam Chair, there are other people wishing to express themselves, I do believe. If you want to.
Sorry.
No,
Yep.
it's okay. And I just want to thank David for his comments. Thank you. So it looks like Annie.
Kosciuszko.
Yes. Sorry, going to try that one.
Hello. Everyone can hear me? First of all,
State your name, Annie, just.
Oh, sorry, me, Kosciuszko. First, I'd like to thank you guys for tackling the rewriting or the reorganizing of the regulations. They are a nightmare to try and find something and try to get through, and they're very convoluted, so that's really one. Secondly, I want to totally and completely second everything that it did. I completely agree with his sentiments and his deep concern about the commission forfeiting their ability to set conditions on proposed home businesses. I think I would be very, very, very concerned about that. And I guess rather than simplify things by just having site plans, I would work toward making the special permit application more user-friendly. I know that we tried to do that years ago when I was on the commission, so that people can do that, but just don't give your power away, because I think it may come bite you back in the end. The other concern I also had about the home businesses is, I don't know if this was not, but this is not, we're not talking about owner businesses anymore. The owner does not have to live on the of the business. Is that really happening? I'm sorry, that's just a question. And I do have concerns about that too. That I thought that it was in the past has been an owner run business. The person also owned the property. So those are my 3 comments.
Just as a quick response, I am taking notes of all the comments received, because it sounds like we'll be back to the drawing board with taking in all of these considerations. So I am keeping in mind that owner occupied requirement, and then also, of course, the special permit, just going through that process. So thank you.
Christine had a question.
Hi, Christine Gray here. My question had to do with residential, well, basically the fact that it's located, home business located within a residence, because I believe buildings in the general business zone are allowed any of the, like, you can have a residential building in the general business zone, is that correct? So then when you're talking about the rural residential neighborhood of, or rural nature of the neighborhood that may not apply. I guess, you know, if I'm thinking about buildings in Bridge that are residential, but I'm not sure I would call Cornwall Bridge a rural neighborhood.
Depends on where you're talking about.
So Janelle, do you have any thoughts about that?
More so just a clarifying point. So Christine, are you getting at whether the home business only applies to residential neighborhood or residential zone districts rather?
I'm wondering if we want to specify that. Because currently it's only applying to residences. And my point is that you have residences in many different zones. So do we want this to only apply to residential zones?
Your point is understood. I think it's a really good one. Residents.
And I just had one response on as far as the question about the whether owner occupied or owner run businesses. If we make it so that it has to be owner run business, somebody renting us couldn't then also run a business out of their home while they're renting their home. So I don't think we want to where the owner has to be the business owner as well.
No, I think the idea was that the business owner had to live on the property. Well, it could be a tenant who's renting the property, but they're living and working there.
Right.
So yeah, whoever runs the business also lives.
You see anybody else in your chat list, Janelle? I'm sorry. I've
No, I'm clear. It looks as though it looks like Toby was typing in some comments, and I don't know, Toby, do you want to speak?
I mean, I'll just repeat my question.
Yeah. Could you just state your name, Toby, please.
It's Toby Cornejo, Tobie, Cornejo, Cornejo.
Carry on.
And I don't know the lineage of how to these two particular insertions into the new zoning rewrite that maybe we haven't seen. I don't know. And I apologize, I'm just coming into this meeting and I haven't attended the previous ones. But there seemed to be a lot of specificity in reading current regulations about home businesses that does seem very reflective of kind of a diverse set of types of businesses and types of home offices and home efforts and home sort of economic activity that seems very, very nuanced and very, very carefully did. And this rewrite seems to strip all of that away, in addition to stripping away the sort of power of and I'm just wondering, from the people who have been on the commission for a long time, or the people on this call who used to serve on the commission, were there really particular chips that people were running into based on the current regulations that you think are, you know, really kind of impeding economic development now, or in people starting businesses now? Like what have been the challenges, and how does this fix that? Because this seems to be very reductive. And I guess I'm aware there are a lot of special things about Cornwall, and I don't want to see those things lost. And this seems to be a little bit like it's leading in that direction rather than improving the situation for everyone.
Thanks. Thanks for your comments. I have been on the commission, I think 16 years now. And I think over the time in Cornwall, there's been a lot of businesses that maybe have been operating under the radar, and we were trying to incorporate some regulations that would help everyone like they could more easily work from home. I think the commission is hearing the general sentiment from the public. Maybe we've do need to revisit this proposed regulation to make sure that it is in keeping with our intent in general, it was one of promotion economic development for Cornwall. Also, I think when several iterations of the town plan has always been a concept of how to boost some more activity in the community. And I think obviously with 2020 and COVID times that there's been, we're kind of starting from in terms of what our zoning regulations need to address and how quickly the town landscape might change. So it's an interesting time to be on the commission and also to try to realize that the whole push up to the COVID time has been one of trying to promote some growth and activity and younger people moving to the community. And all of a sudden now we have a lot of those happening, and maybe they're happening at a pace that might get even quicker. But in general, I think that was of where this regulation came from. So I hope that answers some of your questions.
It does. I just have one follow-up question. May I that too? Or a comment? Where I do a lot of work in New York, there's a pretty deep submission process sometimes in historic neighborhoods with a lot of photographs and a lot of drawings, and sometimes it's a bit too much. But I'm wondering if you could consider, in addition to a site plan, is there any photographic requirement or any kind of sort of material or elevation drawings? You asked for a floor plan, but are there any other kind of visual materials that are currently required or to be required that I think might be helpful as, if more and more businesses want to open here, more and more changes are occurring. A lot of it is very historic, and it's very hard to make evaluations sometimes just off of a site plan.
My response to this, thank you. That's very well worth considering.
Yeah, I think it's at a moment where it could be a very, very useful tool. And technology gives us very easy ways to collect that information, disseminate that information, and I think it could be really invaluable.
You may not be aware of the concept of the site walk, which the commission can make use of with the property owner's consent to actually go and see a plate. That's not so difficult in Cornwall. We're not that big. Any final commentary?
Madam Chair, it looks like I have Bruce Bennett, and then also I believe Caroline wanted to comment additionally.
All right, well, Bruce has not had a turn yet, so we will start with him.
Hi, all. Can you hear me?
Yes.
So a little insight into the situation that developed with me. I was the previous owner of the Kent greenhouse. And when we started out down there, we were by ourselves. We were not a residential business, although a greenhouse is allowed as a residential business in the town of Kent. I assume it is in Cornwall as well. But we were shortly right next to a residential area that was put in, and some of the issues that between us and them as we grew is we would come to work at 6:30 in the morning. A lot of people were still sleeping, but it was our business. Luckily, we didn't have to deal with that because of our situation, but it got to be a problem with neighbors that we were out there dumping stones into trucks and putting materials into trucks and making a lot of noise generally. So we, being good guys, we of course kept that down to a dull roar as much as we could. Other things that happened was tractor trailers would come in the middle of the night, leaving their engines running, and I had no idea setting 15 neighbors up with these engines running. And I think these are all things that could actually develop without some kind of control in a residential area. And this is a question, is somebody allowed to have 15 dump trucks if they have the appropriate parking, appropriate setbacks, appropriate area to be able to set up a trucking business in a residential area in the town of Cornwall. And something else, another question that I would ask is, in a residential area in Kent, a auto body place opened up. And of course, there are odors and fragrance banging and clickings that go on in that kind of a business. And it was a real issue for the neighbors at that point. But it's actually done limited development in that area where that auto body shop is. No new houses, no new lots are developed, even though people have tried to sell lots. So, and that's been a detriment to the development of the town and bringing in more people. So these are some issues I think that are important to be able to consider. I would tend to agree with Dave that there needs to be more control over this actually occurs. People tend to take advantage of a situation that isn't clearly explained or controlled. So be really careful with leaving it as open-ended as it appears to me. And you're correct. I don't know how the other regulations control what would be going on, but I think it's something that should be considered. Thank you.
Thank you. Caroline, seconds.
Yeah, just to speak to the home business part, I agree with really so many of the comments, and I think it's just somewhat new family to the area, and I just think it's important to remember that the two things don't necessarily have to be opposed, that you can have economic and still maintain the beauty and rural character of a place, which is also, I think, considered one to be probably Cornwall's great. So that's also an economic asset. I think we tend to separate that out sometimes. And then just to point out, I don't have planning and zoning in any way. I just have experience looking very closely at legal language, which David referred to as needing to be quite literary and from reading these regulations regarding the home business, people have brought up various issues, including the 10,000 square house, or I just think this, for me, what was to kind of echo what Toby Corneo said, what I found, not concerning, the question is that the regulations we have are so specific, and the regulations that are being proposed are so open-ended that, as I mentioned, they can, many different types of businesses, basically, I agree with what David was saying, we're basically creating a commercially zoned residence area, a mixed commercial use area for residential zones in Cornwall. I don't know the exact terminology there. So, and I'll give one specific example. There's an example, if materials or equipment related to the home business are visible from the road or to adjacent properties, they shall be screened from view. And there's no, in my letter I sent, it gives really specific examples of how I see sort of different pieces of the language that could be open to various interpretations, and so basically screen from view isn't defined there in any way. So that could be a 10-foot concrete wall if it's considered a screen. So I really do think that, as David Colbert mentioned, that this is a drastic rewriting of the code that was there before, and it is opening up, it could drastically destroy, I would say, the rural character of many areas of Cornwall if it was to be passed in its current. So, you know, with concrete walls, warehouses, trucks coming and going, there's just a lot of stuff in here that opens up the possibility to change the character of Cornwall, you know, irrevocably. And I think as stewards of the land and as stewards of the place that we live, it's important to think about the very language that's included in these proposals.
Thank you, Caroline. Chance, going, gone. I think on the whole, I'm extremely pleased with the back and forth that these two public hearings pertaining to legislation have resulted in. The members of the audience who contributed gave the commissioners food for thought, And we are going to do the new thinking that is required. So I would like a motion from a hands up, someone to, did we table it already?
No.
No. To this public hearing.
Continue the public hearing.
Continue the public hearing, yes. Hand up, please. James, who's the second? Bill. All in favor, raise your hands. Okay, so we're continuing the hearing. We are now going to move over to our regular P&Z meeting, which is going to be speedy.
Because I think we're almost out of time.
Correct. So approval of minutes. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes of October 3rd? Raise a hand, somebody.
So moved.
Steve, Keith, second. All in favor, hands up.
Aye.
Okay. We're now moving to pending application, the subdivision application for Ginny Potter. I would like to read a motion that will read as follows. We will accept this application based on the following. It complies with all the following pertinent sections of Cornwall Subdivision Regulations, including the following: Article 1, 2, and 1.2. 1.1 and 1.2 general provisions. Article 3, application requirements. 4, general standards, specifically 5.2.1 and 5.2.2, RE lot area and layout. 5.2.4, RE driveways. And finally, 5.7, open spaces. Furthermore, this application meets the 6 goals of the housing section of the 2020 POCD, i.e. support the efforts of the Cornwall Housing Corporation and increase first-time home buyer options. Who will make the motion?
So moved.
Keith? Can I?
Who was?
Second.
Keith? Steve. Keith first, Steve second. All in favor, raise their hands.
And as per plans, and I'm going to add that because you're approving it specifically to the plan.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
I will add that.
Plans. Fine.
Has to be named.
So the Ginny Potter subdivision application is approved. And that is the end of our agenda.
Anna, may I just ask a clarifying question?
Sure.
So the thought is to continue the public hearing, given that it sounds like I need to go back to the drawing board and truly work?
I want that we have a planning meeting scheduled for November 24th, which will be before our next regularly scheduled meeting.
Okay.
If we devote ourselves, it's possible that we might be able to continue the hearing in December.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, do we have to set the continuation date today, Karen? How does this?
You have to set a date. You legally have to set a date so that the expectation of knowing that they're going to,
If we set it
is going to be continued.
Yeah, if we set it for our December meeting and then find we're not ready, can we continue it again?
Remember one thing, if you're making substantial changes, it's best to withdraw the amendments. So it could be that after discussion, in December, because the changes are so substantive, they're not the same regulations.
I would.
But at our November 24th meeting, and it has to be clear that those people in attendance listening workshop meetings are not public hearings, that it's a workshop meeting that would be, limited to discussion by the commission regarding these matters, that the floor would not be back open for people to raise their hand and give testimony, because that would be outside the public hearing. So maybe that discussion, December 24th, would give you some guidance as to what you want to do come December.
November 24th.
Karen, if I may, so regarding these issues that are still, the commission shouldn't have any discussion about this. And are you saying that we could put it in a docket to discuss in the November meeting, even though it's still an open public hearing? Or is that technically we should do this before our next regularly scheduled public hearing if we're going to discuss substantive changes?
I think we're in kind of a conundrum.
Right.
Well, then I think we need to void the motion to continue the hearing.
We probably can't do that now, right? We've already voted on it.
You could continue. You can rescind the motion to continue if at this point in time.
We're going to withdraw the amendments and present them later when we're more prepared. Is that
regular meeting?
Pardon?
Can we discuss, can we withdraw the motions as part of our regular meeting?
In December?
December, you could open the public hearing and say that you are going to withdraw the regulations based on whatever, or you could open the public hearing and take additional comments and then make a really educated decision as to, after listening to all what you heard and the changes that you would have to make the decision in December. You heard a lot tonight. You have a lot of information that's still that you have to look at. So
so maybe after we've had a summary of this and people have had a second opportunity in December to share opinions, then we can discuss before we go ahead and vote to extend it, that we discuss whether we want to withdraw.
All right, that's
and that'll give
reasonable.
people an opportunity to speak up one more time also.
Are we suggesting that we might be amending the regular at our November planning workshop meeting and then reposting?
We have to start all over again.
Yeah, I was going to chime in and just say, based upon the many valid concerns that were brought to all of our attention this evening, certainly about continued work that has to be done at this point in the game to be the most effective, rather than take more time, or I truly know I need to go back to the regulations, reword many things, and I do feel that those should be substantial, and having a hearing open, not closed, with new information being discussed upon at a workshop meeting. I just feel like, everyone, please, as commission members, let me know where your thoughts are, but my thoughts are truly to withdraw the regulations as written together as a true workshop meeting without an open public hearing.
Okay.
I'm in agreement with
I'm
that.
concerned. I don't think we should be shifting this right now, since we already closed the public hearing. So people might, I agree 100%. I'm just trying to cover our legal basis. Close the public hearing now. Can we still discuss this, or do we have to wait to our next scheduled meeting before we can discuss this? Because some people that were at it aren't, because we closed the public hearing, and we need to have public comment if it's still officially open.
All right. I have your point, and I agree with you. So we've already made the motion. The public hearing will be continued at our December meeting. And we may or may not start with a motion to withdraw. Does that make sense?
Fair enough.
Yep. Sorry about that, but I just think that.
No, you're right. We have to follow the legal requirements.
Yeah.
And I appreciate everybody's help. James. This is.
Can you just explain then for the public what would happen next? So I'm confused. Like, what are the next steps for when we would.
The public hearing will continue on at our December meeting. Somebody might be able to look that up. Second.
I can address, in the meantime, being that it's still open, we could still be receiving public comment as well, that, would come in and be part of the public hearing, so that you would have even more comments in December and then withdraw.
Chances are that in December we will withdraw. This technicality has happened that we've voted to postpone the meeting or the hearing, and that does not allow us, that situation does not allow us to have any more discussions or to alter what we have proposed. So what we have to do in December is withdraw the motions and then come back.
But at this point in time, the motion was on the floor to continue, so receive communications. We will reopen the public hearing in December and have some sort of a better idea as you're going to go on this. So.
All right. That's all we can do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are the full draft available too? Because Janelle made some really good points about how that might.
Caroline.
Oh, might not have to talk. Sorry.
Are you talking about the full draft? Why don't you ask these questions to
Okay. Sure. Yeah.
Thank you.
So we're not asking dumb questions that you guys are already working on that we haven't seen.
Yeah. Why don't you call my office?
Okay. Thanks, Karen.
I would accept a motion to adjourn. Phil, and we're all in favor. Thank you very much. For Bruce Bennett's benefit, this is an unusual example of a planning and zoning meeting.
Oh, sure.
We don't normally have 3 public hearings.